Hi and welcome to Healthy Life Hacks. I'm Jennifer Jefferies, the present-day wise woman, a realistic naturopath coming to you from the surfing beaches of Australia. This podcast is for those who are wanting to really rock their lives and health and live from a place of prevention. Let's get into today's episode. Life is like a cup of tea. It's meant to be filled up and enjoyed with friends. I love a cup of tea. I really do. I really love sitting down and enjoying a really good cup of green tea, and especially sharing that experience with friends. I have some of my best memories are in places like Taiwan. I remember one day in a town on the East Coast, east out from Taipei, sitting with a gorgeous friend up there, and we sat for about 6 hours just sitting, overlooking down on the town in this little village that's famous for tea, drinking tea and just chatting. It was just one of those memorable days of my life. I absolutely loved it. I see nowadays as a naturopath that lots of people are drinking more tea than coffee, and that's good, except maybe not so good, depending on how they're doing it. So first, let me just touch on, is coffee bad for you? No. What's bad for you is drinking. We drink, we don't eat. Drinking crappy coffee, crappy grade instant coffee, and drinking too much of it. The coffee close to nature, really good quality coffee and not made into a great big milky latte or something like that, it's okay. It's caffeine, but in balance, it's okay. With everything in life, it's when we go out of balance, we go to the extreme that we have trouble. So the thing in things like coffee is the caffeine. A bit of caffeine is okay for you. Too much caffeine is not so good for you. And it taxes your adrenal glands. And I've been going on already in these podcasts about looking after your adrenal glands. So some people are going, well, I'm going to be healthier and I'm going to stop drinking coffee and I'm going to drink more tea. But guys, tea still contains caffeine. It really does. And again, it's okay. But if it's close to nature and in balance, it's all right. But sometimes tea can be not as good for you as coffee. And I want to explain why. So I guess we'll start off first with what it is. So tea is a bush. It's the Camellia sinensis is its botanical name. And it is this really cool, lush, green looking bush that they pluck the leaves from. And then they're dried or fermented. And that's what we make tea out of. So just to explain the different kinds, we've got white tea, green tea, matcha green tea, oolong tea, black tea, and then all the flavored kind of teas. Bear with me for a sec while I explain them, because I promise it will make sense. So the first off, the one that is the closest to nature is white tea. So white tea, and I'm not talking about your regular cup of oolong tea with milk in it, as that's white tea. No. I'm talking about white tea being the little baby leaves on that tea bush. They're picked, not fermented, they're just dried, and that's white tea. White tea and green tea are around 60 to 80% antioxidants. Those things the micronutrients that absolutely protect our bodies. Really, really, really important and really good for us, just on every level. So white tea is the closest to nature, the baby leaves of the tea bush. But then we go to green tea. Now, green tea is the same leaves grown to their full length. Okay, grown to the full length. Again, just close to nature. They're picked, they're dried, they're not fermented, really rich in super antioxidants, 60 to 80%. Outstanding cuppa. Just so good for you. The next one is matcha green tea, which is your Japanese green tea. It's still a green tea, it's just a different variety. And it's really cool because it has 137% more antioxidants. Matcha green tea is awesome. That's the one that you generally find powdered that they use in the Japanese tea. It's really cool too. So they're the closest to nature. They're just the tea bush is grown, the leaves are plucked, they're dried. Ta-da! That's the tea. Simple. But then the next step is the one where we go one step away from nature. And that's oolong tea, which is really famous up in places like Taiwan. And when I'm up there, I drink plenty of oolong tea. I love oolong tea, but there's a difference. So oolong tea is the same tea bush. They pluck the leaves, but then through the drying process, the leaves are partially fermented. It's taken a step further away from nature. So it now has less antioxidants and more caffeine. Okay, less antioxidants and more caffeine. It's gone away from nature. And then the next one is black tea, which is like your English tea, all your regular black teas. Now, these teas are the same plant, that same tea bush. They've plucked the leaves, they've dried the leaves, but now they've had a full fermentation. They're fully fermented and they have way less antioxidants and way more caffeine. And the further you get away from nature, the less value to our body that it contains. Now, something that's really important with tea, which is the thing I want to talk about today. With tea, it's interesting. So whether you've got white tea, green tea, matcha tea, oolong tea, black tea, if you brew it for like 30 seconds to 1 minute, you pull up the majority of the antioxidants and you will pull up the caffeine, but you don't get as much tannin. Now, if you're brewing white tea or green tea for less than a minute, you'll pull up all the caffeine and the antioxidants, but you don't get the tannins. But with black tea and oolong tea, you're always going to have some tannins come in. So what is tannin and why am I not a fan of tannins? Guys, tannin is what's used to turn animal hide into leather, shoes and handbags and belts and things. It tans it, it dries it out and takes skin, which is what an animal hide is, and turns it into leather, which is tough as nuts. It's crazy. What happens in the part of our body that it actually dehydrates the most is our small intestine. Our small intestine is where we absorb all of our water soluble and fat soluble nutrients. And it dries it out, it dries the walls of it out of like leather, and we just can't take things up. Really important nutrients. One that it blocks in a big way, tannins block iron. We see a lot of people, low in iron and stuff nowadays. It's really common, which is really quite scary. But even things like, red wines are rich in tannins. Tannin is that astringent kind of taste that you'll get in things like red wines and things like your cup of tea. It's like more bitter, more, I don't know, astringent, kind of like, it's a feeling on my tongue. I don't know how to say it. There's a feeling on my tongue, like that, like drying kind of feeling on my tongue. Like your really dry red wines and your cups of tea can be really drying. Even though the cup of tea is made on water, the tannins outweigh it. And I remember in my clinic one day, I had this guy, my clinic was in Townsville in North Queensland, and west of Townsville is all the big cattle properties. And I had this old cow cocky come in, this guy, he'd been working on the farms for forever. And he was just such a cool guy. He was only in his 50s at the time. He was a young bloke. And saying that now because I'm 59, but he was a young bloke. I definitely wasn't betting. I was like 30 or something at the time. But his body had gotten so full of arthritis, like his joints everywhere, all of his joints just ached. And he was so stiff, getting on the horse every day just caused him, he would have to warm his body up before he could even get himself onto the horse every day. For him, that was the ultimate stress because he had lived working on a horse every day his whole life. So his joints had started to dry out. And I did a consultation on him. And this guy, he lived out in the middle of nowhere on a big cattle property. So nowhere near fast foods and crap foods. They killed their own animals, their own meat and ate that. It was all good. He had a bit of bum glue, a bit of white bread because they'd make their own dampers and stuff. But really, he was okay. So then I'm doing the consultation. I'm thinking, man, why is your body so dried out? And then I said, what do you drink of a day? And kind of expecting it to be, a few beers. It wasn't. It was cups of tea. It was tea he was drinking. So they would go and, round up cattle for hours every day. And really often they would sit down and they would brew up in the old billy tea. They'd make a good, strong pot of tea and that'd give them the caffeine and the energy to power on the rest of the day. Well, the thing is, he had dried his joints out to nothing over the years. And I still remember him sitting there in my clinic and I'm going, well, mate, you got to reduce your cups of tea. And he's going, no, I'm not doing that. Okay, cool. Well, you got to play the game with me. So I told him he had to give me his normal, 2 liters of water a day, which was, is like your 8 to 10 cups a day. But I told him he had to give me 2 cups of water for every cup of tea he was having. Now, this guy was having 10 to 15 cups of tea a day. So we did the maths. I sent him off. He knew he had to have 30 odd cups of water a day. And after it was only 3 or 4 days, I still remember he rang me up and he's going, Jen, I'm good. I'm going, great. What's happening? He's going, I'm back on my horse. He was already starting to feel his body loosen up. I'm going, what else is happening? He goes, I'm peeing every hour. I said, well, you've got a choice now. Reduce your tea, change it to green tea, because guys, green tea or white tea brewed for less than 1 minute counts as water. That's it. It was a process. He had drunk his cup of tea, the same good, strong tea, the same way for a long time, but his body was really being taxed by it. And for him, it was showing up in his joints. Everything, hips, everything was really tight. So I just love that I can help people to find that balance. If he chose to still continue to drink his cups of tea, I don't care. That's up to him. But he needed to at least bring a lot more water in to balance it out. That's the trade-off. But over time, he absolutely started to switch from his, heavy brewed black tea to green tea, brewed it for less than a minute, learned to enjoy it because it was a big contrast from his regular cup of tea, but he freed up his body in such a cool way. And I promise it's really affecting how your body is absorbing nutrients as well. So you want to have a look at it. Is tea good for you? Yes. And in fact, it's really, really good for the immune system. So, there's been studies that have shown the polyphenols, which is like those little micronutrients, the antioxidants and that absolutely kill influenza viruses. Now it's winter in Australia and there's lots of bugs around at the moment. It's the time of COVID. There really are lots of bugs around. And I'm consciously doing everything I can to keep my immune system strong. I promise green tea brewed for less than a minute is part of it for me. I'm really big on making sure I get all my micronutrients, and it's an easy one to do. And it tastes great. I really love it. I love the ritual of sitting and just brewing a cup of tea. It's really neat. So maybe you want to have a go at bringing that into your life. So today's healthy life hack is to have give green tea a try. So green tea, white tea, brewed for less than 1 minute counts as water. So it is winter here in Australia at the moment. It's cold, perfect time to have a cup of tea. You can also, when it comes to summer, you can brew it up and then cool it down and drink that as a drink as well. It's very refreshing. The iced teas and all those kind of things that you'll find. And my North American mates, I love you so much. But when I see people making iced tea over in the States, they brew it for a really long time and they throw in all the sugar and all the other stuff. It doesn't count as water. It just doesn't. So maybe you want to try having some green tea brewed for less than a minute. That is today's healthy life hack. And in the next show, make sure you tune in because I'm going to talk about all pimples on our face and where they sit on our face as to what they mean in our body. What's happening health-wise for us to manifest pimples on our forehead versus our nose versus our chin or our under our chin, our throat kind of area or near your ears. I'm going to talk about all those kind of things in the next show. So make sure you subscribe so that you always catch the next episode. I want to thank you for being here today. If you enjoyed my podcast, please let me know by leaving a review where you're listening in from. Every month, I draw one lucky person who leaves a review to have a free 1-hour consultation with me. If you would like to receive a free copy of my Feed Your Body ebook, simply click the link in the comments below and join my newsletter and we will get that free ebook sent to you. I welcome your emails and you can write to me at podcast@healthylifehacks.com.au. Until next time, remember when it comes to life, live it, love it, and get on with it.